How did you learn they were dead?
Wendy's mother had gone out into the woods looking. She just knew something wasn't right.
She said, I went to bed that night, I got up and they were gone. You gotta get your game face on and get to work and try to figure out what happened to them.
We believe that Wendy was strangled to death, and this man had to look at his own son and had to conclude, he's a witness against me, and I can't have that.
Was there anything in particular which implicated them?
She overheard Peyton screaming, Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Talmadge, Ohio, where a single mother and her 5-year-old son suddenly disappeared from their apartment. 2 weeks later, the bodies of Wendy and Peyton Ralston were found near their home. They had been murdered, and police suspected the killer was someone they knew. As investigators looked at those close to Wendy, her checkered past included numerous lovers and sugar daddies that she leaned on for money. The pool of potential suspects was immense, taking investigators through twists and turns to catch the killer. It was the morning of August the 7th. A frantic mother filed a missing persons report for her daughter Wendy and grandson, whom she had been unable to reach.
Talmadge Police and Fire. I have a daughter that I'm very concerned, and I called the hospital, and they suggested I call you.
3 days later, Wendy's mother Marie visited her daughter's home. Getting no answer at the door, she searched behind the home for any sign of Wendy or Peyton.
Wendy's mother had gone out into the woods looking. She just knew something wasn't right. She didn't feel her daughter would have gone away. She found what essentially was 2 small bundles wrapped with like a bed sheet, and then she immediately called the police, and our officers came out.
Detective Bohan joined responding officers and the medical examiner at the disturbing scene. There was a large amount of insect activity and what appeared to be large bones in the bundles.
We had numerous people coming out to the scene, and I was told that we probably have the remains of bones that represent probably Wendy and her son Peyton. And that was right behind their house, which is 574 Stone Creek, and it was found in a dense wooded area, and that's where the bodies were found.
During the week that they were missing, the whole neighborhood was smelling decomposition, and they just thought that a deer or something had died in the woods. She had to close up her windows and things in the end of July because the odor was so bad.
So I know you see a lot of things, but what was it like for you to be working on a scene like this?
So when I arrived on scene, the medical examiner for the county was already on the scene as well. One of the packages had been kind of pulled open to expose the bones. The smaller package that was wrapped in a green blanket was still intact. And so we opened that, and immediately you saw a human skull and a giraffe stuffed animal in with the remains. So we knew they were human remains.
Especially having kids of my own, you know, the emotions, you come in the job expecting to have to deal with this sometimes, especially when you come in a detective, but once you're actually dealing with it, yeah, it does kind of hit a little bit. And you do, unfortunately, represent, oh my God, you know, what if this was my child? You train for this, you gotta get your game face on and get to work and try to figure out what happened to them, because you're the one that needs to solve this.
The bundles contained the remains of an adult and a small child. A state of Ohio criminal investigation team documented the crime scene and what was now a murder investigation.
We knew that it was behind this residence where we had missing people. They could hear a male's voice saying, "Hey, is somebody back there? What's going on?" Turns out that was Dan Tai.
Wendy's mother had told police that her daughter shared the apartment with her 5-year-old son Peyton and his father, Dan Tai. At this point, nothing suggested that Tai was involved in the deaths, but police couldn't be sure.
At that point, we wanted to get Dan Tai locked into a statement as soon as we could.
So when Dan spoke with detectives, what was his demeanor like?
He was pretty calm for the situation, knowing that possibly his 5-year-old child and his ex-girlfriend was found. We pretty much knew, it was going to be them at that time, and he was not expressive about it.
Tai told investigators that he and Wendy had an on-again, off-again open relationship. He claimed that Wendy had taken their son on a vacation with one of her boyfriends on July 23rd, 17 days earlier.
He said, "I went to bed that night, I got up and they were gone." And he's like, "I didn't think much of it, but they just left."
He was talking a little bit about Peyton, but mostly his conversations were all about these other men and check her phone records and check her computer records and look at her bank accounts.
While detectives continued the interview, the medical examiner team documented everything that may have been in contact with the deceased. They discovered that the bodies had been moved from near the fence to a spot deep in the woods, the spot where Wendy and Peyton were found.
We found some old electrical tape just in with the weeds. And so the presence of that around Wendy's body and then also at the first decomposition site also kind of links that as well.
Investigators would have to do a deep dive into Wendy's many relationships, looking for someone who might be connected to the murders. Emotions were high, and they desperately wanted to find the killer, however long it took.
She overheard Peyton screaming, "Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up."
Investigators looked closely into Dan Tai's claims that Wendy Ralston had gone on vacation with a boyfriend 2 weeks before she and her son were found dead. The process was long and arduous. It required numerous interviews to confirm alibis of the men who knew Wendy. The investigation was further complicated because Wendy used several burner phones to contact the men. So with so many boyfriends, where did you begin your outreach?
So we were doing our best to try to track down where she might have been. We were sending out subpoenas for a lot of the electronic services like Facebook and things. And because she had left her purse, the officers noted there didn't seem to be a lot of things missing from the home for someone who had been gone for 10 days. So we were trying to get the cell phone number, and she had a few of them. She had a pay-by-the-minute phone back then and another couple phones. And so we were trying to get with providers to ping her phone and get a location on them.
Tai claimed that several of Wendy's boyfriends paid her for sex, something she had been engaged in for years. Police knew that the men might be less than truthful about their contact with a woman who had been found murdered. How did you examine Wendy's history and the contact that she may have had with the many men she knew?
We subpoenaed all of Wendy's phone records, Wendy's emails. We found these guys, we interviewed them. We had alibis for every single one of them.
You know, her background was a bit checkered. She had solicited in the past. In the days leading up to her death, she was trying to reach back out to some of these men that she met on websites to get money to pay her rent. And that was the real flurry of activity on all of her social media and text messaging, and that really clouded the investigation for a period of time.
Investigators then learned that Wendy had an ongoing relationship with one man. They wondered if there may have been jealousy between Peyton's father, whom she lived with, and that boyfriend. Who was this man to Wendy?
A legitimate boyfriend, I guess you could say. At this period of time, he had broken up with her. There was no contact prior to the exact time that we believe the homicide happened, which was most likely around July 23rd.
In the midst of the investigation, the medical examiner completed autopsies on both victims. The advanced state of decomposition made finding a cause of death difficult.
There was a fracture to her hyoid bone, which is in the throat. It's consistent with strangulation. There was a handkerchief that we found. It had some blood stains on it, Peyton's blood. He just put a handkerchief over his nose and mouth and smothered him.
Investigators then discovered information critical to the timeline of when Wendy and Peyton were last heard from on July 23rd. What was the last communication anybody had with Wendy?
She had a text message thread going, and this guy was like, "Hey, I'd love to see you. You do anything tomorrow?" And she's like, "No, I'll be here all day." So here she's texting a guy saying, "I'll be here today when you come. I don't have anywhere to go but to return a movie." And then you have Dan saying, "Yeah, she went on vacation with the guy." And she replied to that comment at 10:15, and that is the last electronic signal of any kind we have.
One neighbor overheard at 10 o'clock in the morning, Peyton screaming, "Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up," for a couple minutes. We're talking about the day that it happened, the 23rd.
The information casts doubt on Dan Tai's claim that Wendy and Peyton went on vacation around this date.
The very next day, as a data burst was received by her phone, and cell towers could triangulate the location, and it was right behind 574 Stone Creek. 2 weeks later, we start finding pieces of that cell phone that had pinged.
Police began to narrow their focus on the man who was most closely tied to Wendy and Peyton Ralston.
It was a circumstantial type of evidence, but everything just pointed to Dan Tai.
Having fully vetted the alibis of men who knew Wendy Ralston, including some who paid her for sex, police were now back where they started, with her live-in boyfriend, Dan Tai. Wendy's mother and neighbors described a volatile relationship that included incidents of domestic violence. It was very different from what Dan Tai told police.
His story wasn't adding up, and the forensic information that we were getting was still plotting pieces of evidence in that location, and the neighbors were still testifying to what was going on around that time. Every piece of this evidence, every testimony from a neighbor or a witness, put them together in a timeline and then compare them to Dan's version of events. And it became very clear once we were able to gather all of this information, filter it out, and compare it to his story, that he was lying.
It was a circumstantial type of evidence that really we had to build up around this case. Was Dan Tai the person of interest right from the start? Of course he was. But we did not want to make a mistake and arrest him too soon without us investigating it. So we put every piece of the puzzle together, which took us some weeks. I think we knew Dan Tai was the main suspect.
Detectives then discovered a smoking gun that tied the victims to Tai, as well as incriminating evidence that would help investigators build a case against the killer.
On top of the refrigerator in the home was a multi-pack of electrical tape. A forensic analysis from that roll of tape in the home matched one end of the tape that was still around Wendy's body or her remains. The other end of the tape around Wendy's remains matched the tape that was found at the first decomposition site. So her body is linked via trace evidence to the first decomposition site as well as the roll of tape in the home.
If the killer wasn't Dan Tai, then the killer would have came out, killed Wendy and Peyton, moved their bodies up into the woods, and then came back into the house and put the electrical tape back on top of the refrigerator. It was great evidence.
Hoping to get Tai to tell the truth about what happened to Wendy and Peyton, detectives Bohan and Chochola pressed him to take a polygraph. He took the polygraph, so what were the results?
The polygraph examiner basically told him that you failed miserably and you have something to do with these deaths and you might as well tell us what happened. And Dan just said, I want a lawyer. When we went back outside, his first question was, so do I go to jail now? And we said, no, you're not going to go to jail. We just got to find a place for you to stay. We had more work to do as detectives.
Investigators still had a lot to do before they could present the case to a grand jury, including filling in the blanks of what happened on July 23rd.
So what do you think happened between Tai, Wendy, and Peyton?
My best guess would be that somehow, whether he started it or whether she started it, another fight took place, and whether he intended to or whether he did what he had always done, physically choke, strangle, and it went too far, we don't know, which prompted Peyton to do the mommy get up, mommy get up, mommy get up. My best guess would be that Wendy was strangled to death, and at some point in time, this man had to look at his own son, this 5-year-old boy, and had to conclude, he's a witness against me, and I can't have that. Peyton saw him strangle Wendy, kill her, and now he had to do something about it. Smother him.
It was circumstantial evidence, but it was just the more we looked into it, the more stuff we gathered, all pointed to Dan Tai. A 31-year-old female, a 5-year-old boy that had their whole life in front of them that was taken.
Dan Tai was tried and convicted of the murder of Wendy Ralston and his son, Peyton.
Your actions are incomprehensible. They are monstrous. You declined to make a statement. You took that boy and his mother and you discarded their bodies like trash, and you left them there for the maggots to eat while you sat in the house and you ate pizza.
He received 2 life sentences for the murders.
So what feeling did you have when he was held accountable for what he did?
You're talking about a 31-year-old female, you're talking about a 5-year-old boy that had their whole life in front of them that was taken. So obviously, it was very emotional.
As with so many murder investigations, those closest to the victim are often the ones to fear. And this was true of Dan Tai. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. The tragic murder of Wendy Ralston and her young son Peyton at the hands of her ex, Daniel Tai, demonstrates how domestic violence can escalate to murder. Unfortunately, this scenario isn't entirely uncommon. In the vast majority of intimate partner homicides, there had been times of physical abuse before the murder. If you notice changes in behavior, for instance, an escalation of anger, unfounded accusations, or withdrawal from the family, these are red flags that should not be ignored. Trust your instincts and seek assistance. If these signs are warning you there's a problem, believe them. If you are the victim of domestic violence, you're not alone. There is help. Contact domestic violence shelters and support organizations. Seek professional counseling and understand the legal protections available to you, such as restraining orders or protective orders. And especially when children are involved, call the police or the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.
It's chilling, it's haunting. It's really sad that that's how her life ended. It's a lot of passion, rage. You never see her ever again.
Sheri's murder was premeditated. He was planning to kill her.
He thought he was going to outsmart investigators. That didn't happen.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Findlay, Ohio, about 45 miles south of Toledo. This quiet community was plunged into chaos by the savage murder of Sheri Zeisler inside her own home. As police slowly pieced together the evidence, it revealed the awful truth. Sheri Zeisler didn't see her killer coming until she was staring down the barrel of his gun.
It was November the 15th at 6:06 a.m. on a barely cold Monday morning when a frantic call came into the sheriff's department.
911, where's your emergency?
65-year-old Mariah Zeisler told the dispatcher he had just discovered the lifeless body of his wife on the floor.
There's blood on the floor. Just get the deputies out here, please.
Officers raced to the scene and found 59-year-old Sheri Zeisler surrounded by a pool of blood.
We found Sheri in the master bedroom. There was a large amount of blood that was underneath her. She was laying on her stomach and had her shirt pulled up over her head.
It was clear she had been the victim of a homicide.
Was it obvious how she had been killed?
We were able to tell that she had been shot multiple times.
It looked as if the killer had dropped the murder weapon before fleeing the scene.
There was a Rossi revolver that was found right near her feet.
Detectives asked Sheri's distraught husband to share everything that had happened. He said the night before, he had fallen asleep in a living room. He had always been a heavy sleeper, so when he woke up, he was shocked to see his home had been robbed overnight.
He found the house to be in disarray, like it had been ransacked, with the front and rear doors propped open.
He feared his wife had heard the intruder and tried to intervene.
Someone had broken into the house and Sheri had awoken and confronted them.
However, police found her wallet and other valuables had been left untouched.
There was a lot of high-value items that were just laying around throughout the house that had not been taken.
While Sheri's body was transported to the coroner's office, forensic examiners swabbed the doorways for any DNA or fingerprints the killer might have left behind.
So at that point of the investigation, what was going through your mind?
Who could have done this? Is this a robbery gone bad? All those things are things that you're thinking about.
The shell casings and a revolver were sent in for ballistic testing. Officers fanned out, hoping to find a witness.
Did any neighbors see or hear anything suspicious that night?
None of the neighbors were able to report seeing or observing anything out of the ordinary.
So no one heard the gunshots?
It's a very rural area. Probably the closest neighbor is maybe a quarter of a mile away. This is just a typical two-story residential home situated out in the countryside with no close neighbors.
As investigators continued scouring the Zeisler's home, they made a promising discovery.
We found 3 security cameras throughout the property.
Where in the property were the cameras positioned?
The front door, the rear door to the residence.
Got another camera back here.
And another was mounted inside the dining room, and that monitored the entirety of the dining room, along with the entrance into the living room, and not quite into the bedroom, but almost.
The Zeisler security cameras were brought to the lab for an analysis.
Were you hopeful the crime had been caught on camera?
Getting that footage was critical. Could we see that somebody did try to come in through a back door or through a front door? So getting that information was a critical piece of the investigation. Was this somebody who knew her? Was somebody mad at Sheri? Somebody emptied a gun into Sheri.
59-year-old Sheri Zeisler had been gunned down in her own home. The community believed her death had been the result of an attempted home invasion, which crumbled into chaos when she confronted the intruder.
Did people in the community fear this could happen to them as well?
There was shock and surprise. Hancock County is a very rural county. We don't typically have too many murders at all, so this caused a fair amount of public anxiety.
For Brian and Sheri's 3 grown sons and 4 grandchildren, the pain was almost unbearable. The couple had been getting ready to celebrate a milestone wedding anniversary.
The next day would have been their 30th anniversary.
Did Sheri and Brian have any special plans for their anniversary?
They had planned to go to a vacation destination in southeastern Ohio that a lot of people go to camp and hike and things of that nature. They were planning to go there the following day and spend their 30th anniversary together.
Brian said they had spent the afternoon getting ready for their romantic adventure.
They were packing, making food, and preparing to go on their trip.
The mystery of Sheri's murder deepened when police found the doors to the Zeislers' home hadn't been tampered with.
There wasn't any sign of forced entry. There were no broken windows. There was no broken door frames.
The evidence caused investigators to shift gears.
You start to eliminate the robbery gone wrong because you don't have any evidence whatsoever.
They wondered if the scene had been staged to make it look like her murder had been the result of a botched robbery.
So at this point, what are you thinking? What questions are you asking yourself?
Was this somebody who knew her? Was somebody mad at Sheri? Who are all the potential suspects?
Sheri had been a certified pharmacy technician, and police questioned her coworkers for any leads.
So did you get any information from the coworkers? Did they have an idea of who might want to harm her?
She was very well liked, well respected, and all of her coworkers enjoyed being around her. Speaking with several friends and family, we did find that since the onset of the COVID pandemic, Sheri and Brian had become increasingly isolated. We were not able to find any enemies that she may have had. There was nothing that led anybody to believe that something like this could happen.
In fact, at 5 o'clock the evening before, Sheri had a routine conversation with her daughter-in-law.
We found that she had about a 35-minute conversation with her daughter-in-law.
What did they talk about?
Normal small talk, discuss family events, their anniversary, their plans, things like that.
That's the plan.
So does Sheri's daughter-in-law hear any fear in Sheri's voice?
There was nothing suspicious or anything like that led her to believe that Sheri was in any kind of danger.
The autopsy report brought the investigation more clearly into focus.
What did the coroner determine happened to her?
There were 6 gunshot wounds, many of which were in the head and neck area. So you have A through the eye area, basically almost straight in as an angle, B to the back of the head. There's another one that is coming down like through the neck area, then ends up in the chest. There's another one that goes kind of in through the head area into the jaw area, as well as another one into upper body as well. Somebody emptied a gun in Sheri. You don't have a bunch of defensive wounds or bruising or anything like that suggests some sort of like physical altercation.
With so many bullets used, what did that tell you about Sheri's murder?
This was a deliberate act. It was done with some malice and hatred. From the positioning of her body, it appeared she had been cowering on her knees. The gun was fired fairly close.
It suggests that there was a lot of passion, rage.
Detectives believe the security camera footage from the couple's home would provide the key to bringing Sheri's killer to justice.
Does he point the gun at her?
He's waiting to ambush Sheri.
The results of Sheri Zeisler's autopsy suggested that her murder had been a crime of passion, which brought everything her husband had told them into question.
So what was it that made you doubt everything that Brian had told you?
Brian claimed that he did not hear nor see anything. With the signs of the struggle and 6 gunshots being fired in the house, that was somewhat difficult to believe.
Detectives carefully watched the Zeisler security camera footage, starting with the afternoon before. Sheri had been working on refinishing the floors in their master bedroom.
The couple had been renovating their home and doing some spring cleaning.
Investigators watched Sheri talking on the phone with her daughter-in-law at around 5 p.m.
You have Sheri at 5:07 on the phone, comes back through at about 5:13 You see Brian go into the living room around 5:13 as well. And then at some point the call must have ended and you see Sheri, not on a phone call.
What happens next?
5:20, Sheri is observed walking towards the master bedroom.
And do you see Sheri after that?
You never see her ever again. So that was very concerning.
Minutes later, investigators watched Brian Zeisler storm out of the master bedroom.
The best way I can describe it is he just looks like he's enraged, like he is just incredibly angry.
Detectives saw the Zeisler's cat on the video and noticed its behavior.
The cat looks at Brian, looks back to the area where Sheri would have been shot, and looks back at Brian.
Clearly something had just happened to pique that animal's curiosity.
So was it at that point that you knew who killed Sheri Zeisler?
It was at that point I figured that Brian had murdered his wife.
Data gathered from Sheri's watch showed her pulse had come to a stop at 5:28 p.m.
The last pulse from Sheri Zeisler was recorded at 5:28 p.m. on November 14th, 2021. And her pulse was at 121. Looking back to the several days prior to that, her pulse had never gone above 90. And so you look at that at 121, the heart's probably trying to pump as much as it can, and it's not doing what it needs to because she has multiple holes and gunshot wounds throughout her body. And so shortly thereafter, Sheri Zeisler died. It's chilling, it's haunting, it's really sad that that's how her life ended.
As detectives scrolled through the surveillance footage, they watched Brian trying to make it appear as though an intruder had committed the crime.
You see him going through the house and basically staging the property to look like it had been ransacked or broken into.
And that wasn't all. 2 days before Sheri's murder, at 8:22 p.m., the cameras had captured Brian Zeisler looking out towards the driveway when Sheri returned from work.
Brian's observed standing there with a handgun in his hand, almost as if he's waiting to ambush Sheri as she walks in the front door.
So does he point the gun at Sheri?
As Sheri enters the door, it seemed to me that Brian had lost his nerve. He quickly shoved the gun into his waistband and hurried off into the living room to hide the weapon.
What did that tell you about the crime?
Sheri's murder was premeditated. He was planning to kill her.
Lab testing determined that Brian Zeisler's revolver had been the murder weapon.
Another point of interest was during the first day of the interview, when we took Brian down to our station to talk to him about what had happened and to get a more detailed statement from him, he had indicated that he had not gone near Sheri. He had just seen her there and had not approached the body. But during questioning, detectives were able to notice what appeared to be blood on one of his tennis shoes. We ended up collecting those tennis shoes, and that blood was subsequently matched to Sheri Zeisler. We knew that her funeral was scheduled for about a week later. We got the warrant for the arrest, and we went to the funeral home where we found him. At the conclusion of the ceremony, we took him into a private room and informed him he was under arrest for the murder of Sheri Zeisler. He let out an audible gasp, and his shoulders slumped. He asked if he could give his property to his son, who was standing in close proximity. We agreed to that, and that's when he gave his son a hug and told him he was sorry. He never really made any other statements to us. I was somewhat surprised as we let him out. There was a smattering of cheers and applause from some of the family members that were there.
Faced with the overwhelming evidence against him, on September 13th, 2023, he pled guilty to murdering his wife in cold blood.
He took some responsibility by pleading guilty to murder, but we never got a confession or full story of what happened. So, I mean, that's something that we couldn't completely give, the whole family, the whys. Why did this happen? Why did you do this? What led to it? Some of the finer details. I mean, obviously we know most of what happened, but really can't give you the why of what happened. unarmed and is shot 6 times in her own home. Getting justice for her was really important.
I could only imagine the fear that she felt, and your heart goes out to her and to her family.
The 67-year-old who had tried to pin his wife's murder on an unknown assailant was sentenced to 15 years to life behind bars.
He thought he was going to outsmart investigators. That didn't happen.
Even after Brian Zeisler's conviction, he has refused to explain why he gunned down his wife of 30 years. Prosecutors are hopeful that someday he will explain to the family why he did something so unimaginable. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Sheri Zeisler's tragic death at the hands of her husband was devastating. If you are in a situation where there is a risk of violence, especially with the presence of firearms or substance abuse, err on the side of caution and take proactive steps to protect yourself. Support and resources are available to help you navigate these dangerous situations. Any threats or physical aggression from your partner should be taken seriously. If your partner is making threats or becoming violent, it is essential to take immediate action to ensure your safety. If you are in a dangerous situation where your partner does have access to guns, does abuse substances, or has made those threats, prioritize your safety by leaving the environment as soon as possible. Go to a secure location where your partner cannot find you. This might be the home of a friend or family member, a shelter, or another safe place. Keep records of any threats, abusive incidents, or evidence of dangerous behavior. This documentation can be crucial if you need to seek legal protection or support. Contact domestic violence support organizations, such as the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE for guidance, resources, and assistance in planning your next steps. Remember, your safety is the most important priority. And again, that hotline number is 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.
My friend is staying with me, and there's blood everywhere.
What was your reaction to hearing those gunshots?
This was something very personal. They were there for one reason, and that was to kill Mariah Wilson.
Everybody loved her. She was this absolutely incredible cyclist that was gonna probably go really far.
Did the evidence give detectives some kind of direction?
She met up with a colleague, somebody that she rides bikes with.
He starts shaking his head back and forth, and his very first statement after that was, "I knew I shouldn't have bought that gun."
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Austin, Texas, a city known for being a vibrant college town with a thriving music scene. But in one sad moment, it became the backdrop for the tragic murder of a renowned young cyclist. Following a trail of promising clues, police set out to find their suspect.
It was 9:54 p.m. on a warm May the 11th night in East Austin when a panicked woman called 911 from her home.
Austin 911.
My friend is staying with me, and I just walked in, and she's laying on the bathroom floor, and there's blood everywhere, and
Okay.
Paramedics raced to the scene, but there was nothing they could do to save the victim. 26-year-old Anna Mariah Wilson was pronounced deceased at the scene.
What injuries did she have?
2 gunshot wounds to her head, 1 to her chest. She was laying flat on her back in the bathroom.
So were there any obvious signs of struggle?
Nothing was knocked over, nothing was out of place. There wasn't a physical altercation that occurred inside prior to this murder happening.
There were no signs of forced entry either.
We later determined that there's a key code to get into that door, and we discovered it was not locked whenever she was in there.
So did the evidence give detectives some kind of direction?
There was a lot of directions that it could go at that point. We didn't know if it was a home invasion, if it was a burglary, robbery type situation that went bad, or if there was something else going on.
Shell casings and bullet damage indicated the first 2 rounds may have been fired as Mariah attempted to run into the bathroom. Another significant clue was found once Mariah was removed from the scene by the medical examiner.
We discovered that there was a broken tile in the bathroom floor, and it lined up directly where the gunshot wound on her chest was.
It meant the 3rd shot had been fired at point-blank range.
The suspect stood over her and fired one final shot into her chest, making sure that she was dead. That told me that this was something very personal. They were there for one reason, and that was to kill Mariah Wilson.
Investigators learned Mariah was a competitive cyclist, and she was visiting town for a race that weekend. But her bicycle was nowhere to be found.
It really kind of seemed to me that the reason that the bike was the only thing stolen from that apartment was because it was a personal thing. The killing itself was personal.
Through tears, Mariah's friend told police she had left her home at 5:30 that evening to have dinner, while Mariah had made her own plans.
Her friend had told us that she met up with a colleague, somebody that she rides bikes with, a friend named Colin Strickland.
So after her friend told you that, did Strickland become a person of interest?
Yes, so because Colin was the last person that we believed had seen her, he was definitely somebody we wanted to start with to talk to.
Investigators tried piecing together Mariah's timeline and learned she had returned to her friend's house shortly before police were called to the scene.
She had a door lock that would send her notifications whenever a code was used to unlock the door.
Mariah's friend received a notification at 8:36 indicating Mariah had come back to the apartment about an hour before 911 was called to the scene.
So was there anybody in the area who had heard or even seen something suspicious during that time?
Luckily, detectives were able to locate a neighbor that was close by that had Ring video footage.
In the video, a black-colored Jeep is seen driving slowly through the alley at 8:37 p.m., a minute after Mariah enters the home.
Unfortunately, it did have a rather large bike rack that was on the back of this Jeep, and it covered the license plate. There was really no light in the area, so we couldn't see into the vehicle to see who was actually driving that car at that time.
What exactly was suspicious about the car? Was it the time that it drove through the alley?
Yeah, so as it was pulling through the alleyway, it was starting to stop, and that specific location is right next to the residence where Mariah was staying. The time frame was also really interesting. It was shortly after she had just been dropped off, and it was within the window of when we believe the murder had taken place.
Police obtained more evidence from another home in the area, a chilling clip of surveillance video that made the timing of the Jeep's slow crawl ominous.
All of a sudden, I hear a scream, just a very, hey, I am scared to death scream. And then I hear 2 gunshots, a 6-second pause, and a 3rd gunshot. And then there's no more sound, it's just quiet.
What was your reaction to hearing those gunshots and the scream?
That indicated to me, I know for a fact when my murder happened. I have the audio. It happened at 9:15 p.m.
She passed away. Is being investigated as a homicide.
He is a suspect at this point. I'm very interested in him.
While investigators continued to process the murder scene of Mariah Wilson, they attempted to contact Colin Strickland, Mariah's friend, and possibly the last person to see her alive.
We ended up assigning some officers from our tactical intel unit. They ended up calling me and said, hey, there's a black Jeep in the driveway. It looks a lot like the one that's on the video.
The Jeep had a large bike rack, a similar luggage rack on top, and chrome around the windows.
Everything was lining up. Colin and Mariah had gone out. What didn't make sense to me was the direction of travel. Why was it traveling back towards Mariah's apartment at 8:37 if Mariah had already been dropped off at 8:36?
While detectives believed the Jeep was involved in the crime, they weren't sure who was driving it.
We don't definitely know that Colin is the one behind the wheel. So I came up with this plan of deciding to go to Colin's house and make it more of a death notification and see what his reaction was.
Detective Spittler drove to Colin's home, 7 miles southeast of the crime scene, to put his plan into motion.
There's really no easy way to say this, sir. So apparently last night she passed away.
How did that?
Right now it's an open investigation, but it is being investigated as a homicide.
The 35-year-old cyclist seemed lost in his thoughts. Detective Spittler remained suspicious of Colin as he observed him standing in front of the telltale Jeep from the video.
I'm definitely thinking he is a suspect at this point. I'm very interested in him.
Detective Spittler began asking Colin about his evening.
He said that he did pick up Mariah on his white motorcycle that was also parked in the driveway. They went swimming. They ended up walking to a restaurant, and then he drove her back home on his motorcycle, and then he left on his motorcycle.
And did you believe what he was saying?
I felt like he was mentioning his motorcycle quite often, not in the Jeep that his motorcycle was parked right next to in the driveway. I'm telling myself, okay, like you're lying to me because I have you on video in this Jeep.
Before leaving Colin's home, Detective Spittler could see through a small garage door window into his home and saw a woman.
The other detective asked, is that your girlfriend? He said, yeah, it is. Does she know that you were out with Mariah last night? And he said, no. We assured him, look, we're not here to cause any issues, but we do need to know the truth.
Colin agreed to answer more questions at police headquarters for the next several hours.
While I'm giving this interview, I have officers that are out that are trying to corroborate his story.
What did Colin tell you that he and Mariah had done that evening, and were you able to confirm that?
He told us that he ended up going to Poolburger. So officers go to Poolburger, and sure enough, they were able to find video at Poolburger of them sitting down and eating.
Investigators found more video of a man and a woman riding a white motorcycle that resembled Colin's.
It showed them driving on his motorcycle and driving back to the apartment. And later on, we were able to locate some video also that showed him leaving that area in the same time frame.
The video seemed to back up Colin's account, but it left Detective Spittler with a burning question. If Colin weren't the one driving the black Jeep that night, who was?
So what about that black Jeep? Who drives the black Jeep? He said, well, that's my girlfriend's car. That's Caitlin Armstrong's car.
35-year-old Caitlin Armstrong was a yoga instructor and a realtor, and Colin's live-in girlfriend of 2.5 years.
Sometime in October, they had broken up, and he actually started a relationship with Mariah. And that relationship was brief, probably about a week long, give or take.
Colin reconciled with his girlfriend Caitlin and remained friends with Mariah, but the friendship became a sore issue for the couple.
He held Mariah on a pedestal. He said she was one of the best cyclists in the U.S.
Detective Spittler decided to confront Colin about his girlfriend's black Jeep.
I ended up breaking the news to Colin, said, hey, Caitlin's car is seen on camera outside of Mariah's apartment. He was shocked. He ended up putting his face into his hands. He started shaking his head back and forth. And His very first statement after that was, "I knew I shouldn't have bought that gun."
It sounds like maybe he went out with this girl the other day, and maybe it sounds like from what he's saying that you were a little upset about it.
As investigators learned more about Caitlin Armstrong from her boyfriend Colin, the focus of the investigation began shifting in an entirely new direction.
What else did Colin tell you about buying a gun?
We learned he had purchased 2 handguns, one for himself and one for her. And he told us the guns were 9mm handguns. The caliber that was used in the murder was a 9mm.
So did Caitlin become a focus of the investigation at that point?
At that point, we were realizing, okay, Caitlin now has the motive. There is the means. She's got the weapons in the house. So that was kind of the turning point of, okay, we need to actually really look at her at this point.
Austin police were able to arrest Armstrong at her home on an outstanding unrelated warrant and questioned her at police headquarters. But before the interview could begin, Detective Connor was informed their arrest warrant was invalid.
Apparently that warrant, the date of birth was wrong. You're not under arrest, okay?
Detective Connor tried to keep her engaged.
Did you hear about what's happened over the past 24 hours?
Colin walked in the house and said one of the women in the cycling community passed away.
Yes. It sounds like maybe he went out with this girl the other day, and maybe it sounds like from what he's saying that you were a little upset about it. I want to make sure that's not the case.
That is not accurate.
Your vehicle was seen next to her house. I want to be able to explain, okay, there's a logical explanation for this.
Whenever I confronted her about her vehicle being in the area, she kind of nods in agreement. There was no denials.
Is there any explanation as far as why the vehicle would be over there?
I would like to leave. I'm free to leave.
There was no emotion. She had almost this cold, just deep stare that just goes right through you.
Investigators obtained a search warrant for Colin's home and located the 2 guns.
Both of them were 9mm handguns. So we ended up taking both of them to test, and the gun that belonged to Caitlin was identified as a handgun that was highly likely to have been used in the murder and be connected to those shell cartridges.
So now I know that this gun found inside of Colin's house was used to murder Mariah Wilson. I know where Colin was, and I have him on video, but Caitlin, she also had access to it. We don't know where she was. So I wrote the arrest warrant for Caitlin based off of that information.
Colin was cleared in Mariah's murder, but when police went to arrest his girlfriend, Caitlin Armstrong, a few days later, she was nowhere to be found.
Her social media had been shut down. She wasn't answering phone calls. Colin hadn't even reached her. So we had no idea where she was at.
Investigators soon learned she had sold her black Jeep Grand Cherokee for $12,200 and skipped town.
We discovered that she had taken a flight from Austin up to New York to visit her sister.
But when Armstrong's unsuspecting sister was questioned, she told investigators that Caitlin was already gone and heading back home to Austin.
We couldn't figure out where she was, and so we started looking at the sister's name because they did look very similar. And that was when we discovered, okay, a flight had been booked under the sister's name.
Armstrong had evaded law enforcement again and flown to San Jose, Costa Rica.
They sent U.S. Marshals over to Costa Rica to actually get on the ground and start looking for her. They were able to narrow it down to an area that they believe she was in.
But it wasn't easy to find her. The 35-year-old yoga instructor had changed her appearance.
She had cut her hair, she had dyed her hair brown, and she had a bandage on her nose where it appeared she actually had nose surgery as well.
It took U.S. Marshals 43 days to locate her in a tiny town called Santa Teresa.
Once they were able to get close to her, they were able to immediately recognize, okay, this is her.
She told the marshals her name was Ari Martin, but she eventually revealed her identity before being extradited back to the U.S.
They brought her back to Houston, and I actually went down to Houston to try to re-interview her.
But Armstrong would not cooperate and lawyered up.
So did Caitlin ever even acknowledge her role in the crime or show any remorse?
At no point did she ever take any responsibility, and she never showed any remorse.
Investigators built a strong case against Armstrong.
We located Mariah's bike down the road, and it ended up having DNA on it that came back to Caitlin Armstrong.
Navigational data from her recovered Jeep showed her circling around the crime scene just before the murder, and it plotted her route back home before pulling into her driveway at around 9:48 p.m.
Was there ever any doubt in your mind that Caitlin Armstrong was guilty of murder?
Absolutely not. We actually had a lot of evidence in this case.
Despite the overwhelming evidence against her, Caitlin Armstrong pled not guilty to first-degree felony murder. Jurors during her trial felt otherwise, and in November of that year, she was found guilty and sentenced to 90 years in prison for Mariah Wilson's murder. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Mariah Wilson's future as a competitive cyclist looked bright until her life was tragically cut short by a vengeful murder. Now, while you can't make sure you're 100% safe all the time, here are a few tips that could help minimize your risk. Consider enhancing the lighting in and around your home for greater awareness and visibility. Install motion-activated lights around entry points and driveways, and use timers on your indoor lights to create the illusion that someone is there even when you're not. These are just a few smart choices to help save your life. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.